All right, so we're able to log in, register, profile management, update the profile. Let's take a look at being able to manage users, right, from an administrator's point of view. Okay, so let's create first an admin page where we can work on that a little bit. Let's create here a new file, and we'll call it admin user.template.client.html. Oh, okay. Now we had already started user admin. There it is. Okay, let's actually reuse the one we already have. All right, let's do that. Actually, let me create an index page where it'll be easy to navigate to all these documents. So, href, and let's go to the login, the register. So register, and then this will be maybe href, and this will be login templates. And we have maybe href. We can go to the profile page. And finally, the admin, user admin. Right, we had already started with user admin, so user admin. Okay, so if we navigate to the root, there we go. So if we navigate to user admin, this is what we had started with last week, right? Okay, so let's play around with this a little bit. Maybe let me put this down below. Okay, so let's work on this a little bit. Let's see. So create is pretty much what we already had, right? So it's pretty much the same thing we did with register. Okay. The only difference here is that we have a form at the top, yes, and when we click on the create button, it posts it to the server. Okay. So let's not do that. We also did update in the profile. Okay, so let's not focus on that. Let's focus on a couple other things. For instance, as a user admin, one of my use cases might be that I want to be able to list all the users in the system. Right? In this case, we have a hard-coded user here, just Alice, and oftentimes the designers will provide a template that is already styled, looks pretty, and it'll be static. And it's your responsibility as a JavaScript developer or to make this work for real, right? Connect it to an actual server, retrieve the data, and dynamically render the content, right? Without breaking the style. Although there's not much styling here to begin with, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's take a look at being able to retrieve users from the server. I believe we had started working on that last week. We took a look at being able to retrieve a list of users, and we had created, I think, an API for that. Yeah, this one, right? Where you can use API/user that retrieves a list of all users. And I believe that worked. That was already working. So let's try it out. So localhost 8080, and it was API user. Yeah, it is working, right? So we get a list of all the users that are currently existing, right, in our database. So excellent. So let's use this API. Yes.
Is there a reason that your browser might be structured differently JSON than our browser?
What do you mean?
Mine might look like what your raw looks like.
Oh yeah, no, I have a plugin. I put a plugin that. Huh?
What's the plugin?
I did it like several years ago. It's somewhere in there. Not sure which one. Yeah, no, it knows how to parse XML, JSON, a whole bunch of things, and structure so that you can collapse it and do all sorts of nifty things. Yep. Yeah, yours might look like this, right? Yeah. Yeah, there's tons of nice little plugins. What was I going to say? Right, so let's use this API, right, to retrieve it and then dynamically populate content in this table over here. Okay? All right, so let's do that. We have the template. We need the controller. All right, so let's work on that. So actually we don't need this HTML that we had created. Let's remove that. And let's create the controller for this. So we'll say new file. This will be user admin controller client.js. This will be an iffy. And we would like to be able to do what? We're going to have the very first thing that we're going to do, our init function. Our init function will be to go and fetch all the users, right? So let's encode that into functions called something like find all users, and let's implement that code here. Function find all users. All right. And what should that function do? It should go and hit that URL that we know already, right? It's this one. It's API user. So let's grab that, and this will be the URL. Will be that URL, perhaps without the local host. We don't need that. And we'll do the fetch. And the fetch will go to the URL. Do we need to encode anything? Well, there's no need, right? It's just a get. We don't need to, we don't even need to be in the session, right? So this is just a pure fetch. Probably we'll need to parse the JSON out from the body, from the request. So we can do it right here. Function is the raw response that's coming from the server. And we're going to parse it and return that response, parse the JSON out. Okay, and that's what we're going to return. Once that gets returned, what are we going to do with that? We're going to take the actual users that come back from the server, from the body, and we're going to pass it on to some other function that render users. Okay, and this function will be right down here. So function render users, and presumably this is the list of users. For now, we'll just do a console log users to see if indeed we have that content. All right, so from the HTML, we just need to load that script. So let's do that. So we'll load the script here. So script, this will be source, and we'll bring the user admin controller. Okay, and let's see what happens next. Let's see, we can look at the console here. Let's reload. And indeed, notice that the console comes back with an array of 14 elements, and each one is the JSON object representation of each one of the users. Right? So basically, we need to be able to know how is that we're going to render this onto the HTML page, right? And let's do that next.